Hello and welcome, everybody, to today's episode of the Angelic Footprints podcast. We have Claire Huestis with us today, and Claire is a special guest who is going to be sharing her angel stories. Now, a little bit about Claire. Claire is what she calls a cultivator of hope, and she is a joy releaser. Claire went to Asbury Theological Seminary, graduating with a master's in biblical studies. Claire is a certified belief trainer from Steve Backlund and Igniting Hope Ministries. Her life was radically changed after an encounter with Jesus on the floor at a conference center and has never been the same again. Claire, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for being here. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I run a business cultivating transformation, and most of the reason why is because live in such a deep information age, and it's causing anxiety and fear and everything. Because what used to take our grandparents, 50, 60 years ago, a week to get information. I remember my grandmother talking in World War II. They'd hear about a battle a week ago, and then she'd have to wait 3 weeks for a letter, and then they'd hear about it, and it was this, time has just sped up, and we live in that information age, and transformation is what we're so longing for. So, cultivating transformation is what I'm all about.
I love that. And that is so true what you said. We're living in an age where everything is sped up, where we've got access to the internet, we've got access to so many tools, including AI now, that makes and well, yeah, the mobile phone, everything is at our fingertips. So what you say is absolutely true. And such a transformation from 50, even 50 to 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
Claire, tell us a little bit. Go ahead.
ask me a question.
Oh, I was just gonna say, tell us a little bit about your angelic experiences because I know our listeners are looking forward to hearing about that.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because for me, my first 35-ish years before, I'd have said angel encounters were about a percentage, not a full percentage of possibilities, right? I was like, I've heard my name when, I've had weird encounters. Something holding my fist back in a fight was probably my first real like, whoa, something I'm just compartmentalize that. So for me, 10 years ago was really my marker point where all of a sudden it was like, wait, people have angel encounters regularly? No, no, no. No, 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 no. And then about four, 4-ish years ago, I'm a passenger in my truck. A friend of mine's driving her stuff to her house. It's 9:30 at night. And I look out along the interstate, um, and I see what looks like a party truck. It's all lit up with neon lights and the cab and everything. And I was like, oh, there's a party truck over there. There's a party truck driving through trees. This is one of those keep quiet moments, but I'm looking at it and this is what I see coming at me. He blows the air horn and sticks his face right up against the window. And I'm like, what was that? Oh,
Oh
that's
dear.
just your angel. And I was like, my angel? And he's like, yeah, that's just your angel. That's me talking to God. And I was like, okay, I should ask some more questions, but I want to do it out loud and I don't want to distract the driver who would be like, who are you talking to? God, I just saw an angel and I don't know what to do with this. But anyway, out of that, his name is Duct. He is definitely keeps me laughing. He is he's a warrior angel, but he's also got a great sense of humor. And that's Duct, Duct. First conversation with him about, I don't know, maybe a week, 10 days after this. I said, "Okay, what's your name?" And he goes, "Duct." And I said, "Duck?" And he goes, "Duct, Duct." And then he tells me this funny story. He goes, "Yeah, a woman invented duct tape. I was her personal angel before that." And I went, "A woman invented duct tape? You yeah, all right, I know I'm having an hallucination with myself. This can't be positively true. Google it." Uh, I was like, "Great, the angel knows about Google." So I Google it. Sure enough, letter to Roosevelt from a lady named Vesta Stroud, um, south of, Illinois. They're working on armory boxes, and I don't think they were working clips as much on them, and she discovered that there was a problem when they would carry the armory boxes. They couldn't carry it by the handle once they opened it because the strapping was gone. And so she said, "What we need to do is wrap them in an adhesive tape." Now, you'll Google duck, DUCK tape, and it's 1850s. It's an oily wrapped tape. It's actually it's all wrapped around a lot of the bridges that like the Brooklyn Bridge in
Mhm.
Manhattan. It's wrapping those pillars to keep them from rusting, but duck with a sticky adhesive is what she invented, and she wrote a letter to Roosevelt to get the funding for this tape.
Wow. What an absolutely amazing story. And I'm already loving your angel. What a great sense of humor. You said you had some more stories. Are there more that you would like to share with us as well?
I do, he he keeps me laughing. Sometimes he'll early when we were getting to know each other, he would stick his face in my face and he'd be flying and it'd be like this to me and I'd be like, "Hello, am I not paying attention to you?" He's like, "It's just getting your attention." It's like, "Hi, you're with me." He says, "I'm always with you. I am your personal angel." Some people use guardian angel. I choose to use a more generic personal angel. He has been with me since before my conception. And he has been with me through all of our adventures. We've been backtracking through my time frame to see where he has been with me in moments where I'm about to stick my hand in something and I hear my name and I go, "There's nobody around me. That seems weird." And I'm decompartmentalizing because for 40 years I compartmentalized that as going, if I tell people I hear voices, they're gonna think I cray cray, and they're gonna get put me in the rubber room, right? So, I mean, we all have these fears, but it's so funny. I live in a farm world, and when I start approaching talking to people about the supernatural realm, which is where the angels live, from have you ever heard your name? Have you ever occupied the same space where you're pretty sure you should have wrecked your car? Everybody has a story like that, but they're afraid to
Yeah.
share it because they're afraid they're gonna be looking like, "I hugged myself with a little jacket on," you know? They're all afraid of it because we've so in the West made it so, like, "Oh, I don't know about you, Claire," right? We look side eye like, "Okay, you." But it's so interesting. I have one that I got. His name is Beloved. He's right here. Duct is over this shoulder, my right shoulder. Beloved is over my left shoulder. And Beloved is a healing angel.
A what kind of angel?
A healing angel?
Oh, a healing angel. Yep. Sorry, I missed that. Yep. Please go ahead.
No, I know every once in a while I see poor connection and you go all fuzzy. But a healing angel, he showed up on my birthday, April 21st of 2024. on my 49th birthday, I was identified him, and I said, "Oh." And in this season, my dad was dying, so I wasn't exactly sure what his role was, if it was comforting me or other things, and, one day when we were up at Hunger Mountain, I looked to my right, Duck is standing there worshiping, and I look to my left and I go, where's beloved? I've rarely, if ever, in the last 6 months, looked back and he's not standing there. And I opened up to the rest of the room with my eyes, and he was going back and forth from the altar and putting green balm on people who needed it in their lives. And then he came to me and hit me with some, and I was like, "Whoa." I felt something for the first time in church in a long time. And so he's a healing angel. And then they're the only 2 I've really known how to partner well with, but I've got ones that are named, I write them on my book, Duck, Inspiration, Wealth, Entrepreneur, Freedom, Interpretation, Beloved, Boldness, and Ultimate Trust. Oh, there's a funny story. Same event. I look back and I go, "Are you concerned about the red guy standing, pretty much about 10 feet behind you?" And he's like, "Oh, him?" And I go, "Yeah, him. The red angel that's about 15 feet tall, him?" And Duck goes, "Oh, that's just ultimate trust." And I go, "Ultimate trust is following me around." We've not had much conversations yet, but it's like when ultimate trust, a big giant fiery red angel, I mean, fire in his eyes, it's just kind of like, "Oh, wait." And people are like, "Why don't you have a conversation with them?" I said, "I'm not ready."
That's fair enough too. Claire, your stories are absolutely fascinating. Tell me, with regards to having angels in your life, how would you say that that has influenced your life? I mean, obviously, you've told us the story, you speak to them, and you know when they're around and the various things that they do. But before, and I know that you also said before that you really recognized angels, that you knew that they were around, like even just calling your name if there was any danger or something like that. And like,
Right.
who's that? But how would you say that now that you're familiar with these angels around you, how would you say that's influenced your life? And does it influence your work?
Yeah, oh, it definitely influences my work. I mean, I talk to God, so I kind of have God in this position, up and this way. Duct is here, and then beloved, obviously, and then ultimate trust a little bit behind him. But, I kind of position when I'm talking to them. So that's just a minor thing for me, like, I know who I'm talking to by where I'm positioning my body, but honestly, just having conversations, and they're on assignment with me for what I do in my business, and it's funny how many people they read the stories, they read, like, Peter getting released from prison and all of this, and they're like, "Do we have angels around us?" And I said, "Yeah, we do." And I mean, I'm only 4 years into this journey, so I'm really learning still. I'm like the elementary principles of how to partner with your angels. But there is a partnership. There's a okay. So one of the things duct tape loves to do is I was in a place, I was dealing with one of my clients, she was having brain fog issues, she was just, like, all over the it just could not make sense, and I said, "What's going on?" And so we had a conversation, and she had, like, a spirit of confusion on her, and so I said, "Alright, I finally identified the problem, and I was like, "Okay, we gotta go take care of that," and duct tape loves I hear the sound of duct tape coming off of a reel of tape. I mean, it's just like, it's a distinctive sound. right?
Yeah.
And I hear that sound in the unseen realm, and I see feet going out my window, and I said, "Oh, I must be under a spiritual attack." And then in the screen, just like you and I are talking right now, I see feet basically going over her head, and she's like, it's clear, it's gone." I said, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you could see in the unseen realm, you'd see it as a little bump somewhere on top of a pole because it's right now being duct taped." But
That is
that's
so
one
funny.
example of partnership, and I was listening to a book on deliverance, and I was like, "Well, do I have any of that problem?" Duct tape, and I was like, I should at least identify that I have the problem before you just start duct taping it. No worries." So it's funny, he'll just anything comes against me, and I can hear duct tape in the kingdom or in the unseen realm, and I don't ever have to deal with it because it's already out the door and attached someplace. Yeah.
And thank you for putting it in such an easy way for everybody to be able to understand. Because I think our angels probably do that for every single one of us. Yet you're the first person as a guest who's come on who's described it in such a way that you know that your angels are doing the things that they're meant to be doing. For most people, it's just like, yep, I know I've got my guardian angel around me, but you're describing it in such a way and you're talking about the unseen world, which it absolutely is.
Yeah.
And you're talking about it as if it's such a factual thing. And I think that's important for our listeners to grasp this information that the unseen world, as you call it, is as real as the physical world. And they're doing their thing even if we don't know that they're doing their thing. So, thank you so much for putting that into such a simple, beautifully able to understand concept. I
Mhm.
love that. That is such a wonderful takeaway for everybody. Thank you for your stories. They are absolutely amazing. And we'll thank you to your angels for bringing that information through. And I love how you talked about you're only 4 years into this journey, which I think is also lovely for our listeners because I don't want you out there thinking that this is not attainable for you. It absolutely is. Don't
Mhm.
think about that you have to be an expert. Start today and start your journey. And I think that's such a beautiful message. Claire,
So,
in terms of, go ahead.
can I just say, so like,
Go ahead.
oftentimes you'll see something out of the corner of your eye. Like, how did I identify duct in the first place, right? Was okay, I wear glasses, so there's always that catch a flash in your eye, right? You walk by something, you're like, flash. Well, I started investigating the flashes because somebody I was reading was talking about oftentimes it's a flash and you turn aside. Very biblical. Moses turned aside because the bush wasn't being consumed. Not that the bush was on fire. That was normal. It was that it wasn't being consumed and he turned aside, and so I started doing that. I started turning aside. And so flash, and I would walk like this, keeping my head, yep, that flash is not a flash of, yep. So who's in the room with me? It's usually duck. It's like, hey, okay, you're right there. You're a little out of position. Okay. Making yourself known other than this, a little more subtle. But it's that type of thing that you that's how I started to become aware of it.
Right. So for anyone looking who's got glasses and you're looking in your peripheral vision, definitely look out for that flash. And I know that I get that a lot as well. And you sort of think, what was that? And then you realize that, you've got that spiritual presence with you. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and
In
and
term,
and that was just the beginning for me. So, yeah.
yeah. In terms of what you do, Claire, Is there something that you would like to share with our listeners, either how they can get in touch with you, how they can work with you? Is there something that you would like to offer in terms of, just even if it's sometimes people have freebies on their website or something like that? What is it that you would like to share with our listeners? So maybe anyone who's interested that they can work with you.
I have a Calendarly app. The best thing to do is sit down with a one-on-one because I'll share a few of my wild stories. I no longer call it the weird of the supernatural. It's now just the wild because it's just happening and you're just not really aware of it. And I'm working on my language, to be more open to that because you might remember I said first 40 years compartmentalized all that, but now I'm much more open to it. And so I'm more open to that wild idea of God sending angels. And um, so I'll send my Calendarly. It's a free call, 30 minutes. Let's sit down and chat and tell me your stories. I'll tell you a couple of mine real quick.
I'll be sure to put it into the platform when I release this
Yeah.
episode so that
And I'll send it
listeners
to you.
can have thank you, so that listeners can have access to that. Thank you so much. That obviously answers the question in terms of how can people get in touch with you. Any final last thoughts that you would like to share with our listeners?
I think it's just a boldness and there's you can't jump in and go, I said this. Most people will be like, yeah, okay, nice. They'll give you the platitude. You just start talking. Like I said, you ever heard your name and nobody was around and it saved you from something? For farmers, it's sticking your hand in an auger or a plug thing, and you're like, whoa. And it gave you that half a second to go, oh, I should shut this off and be safe, and you just like nobody was around. Um, and so those types of things, start with that type of story, and you'll find you'll connect with people a lot more driving. And you're like, we both went around the corner with a semi. I don't know, but I managed to survive. You know, I don't know what it was. Most people have a story. They're just looking
It's
for
true.
somebody who's bold enough to bridge the gap into the wild of the unseen realm, the supernatural, to just begin to share. And they'll probably be like, yeah, you won't believe what I've seen, And I tend to see the good stuff. Not everybody gets that bonus. But people have seen some crazy stuff that is not always good.
Yeah.
And you might be surprised what they've experienced and encountered, but I've had these angel encounters that are like have changed the way I think about the unseen realm to such an extent that I'm studying more of the Old Testament to see more and just gain more deep understanding.
I love that, Claire. Thank you. And in terms of working with you, would you prefer someone who does have that Christian or biblical kind of sense about them, or do you have you don't mind whoever you work with?
Ideally it would be the Christian, but I've worked with people who are not yet Christians but they're really curious about the supernatural realm. And 30 minutes, it's 30 minutes. And so,
Yeah.
we'll find out really quick. I'm going to bring Jesus. I can't help but be supernatural and he's my source. So I can't, we're going to find out really quick. But that shouldn't be a fear point, you know.
No, and I think it's just important to, put it out there and say, whether you've got a spiritual connection, a Christian connection or a biblical connection, it doesn't matter. Claire would love to have a conversation with you and see where that goes. And again, whether we're talking about angels, whether we're talking about religion, it's what is right for you. And for all our listeners, you might be the kind of person who is on a quest. you don't quite know what it is that you're searching for, have a conversation with Claire and see what resonates with you. Claire, once again, thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure listening to your stories. Thank you so much. To all our listeners, if you found this episode valuable, would you please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial? If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you are listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration.